Hey, I am Steven, and this is my inquiry project where I'll be exploring about my inquiry question: how does Islam inflict war onto society when it emphasizes peace and tolerance? And my guiding question is: how does conflict impact people within our society? But before we talk about that, this video was sponsored by NordVPN. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to quickly summarize The Kite Runner by Khalid Hosseini, and there are going to be spoilers. The Kite Runner story takes place in Kabul, Afghanistan during the 70s. The characters are Amir, which is the main character, and his friend Hassan, which is his best friend and servant, and his father, which is Baba, and Hassan's father, which is Ali. Amir and Baba had a high social status and as well as economic status. Hassan and Ali are the servants for Baba and Amir, and they are an ethnic minority known as the Hazara. One of the activities they like to do is kite flying, and it's basically a bunch of kids flying kites and fighting each other with kites by cutting the other kites off and then retrieving the falling kites as kind of like a trophy in a way. So Amir and Hassan were flying the kite, and Amir cut down the last kite. So then his friend Hassan ran to get the falling kite, but then he was approached by Asif and raped. When Amir was looking for Hassan, he saw him in the alleyway, and he didn't do anything and just ran away. After that incident, Amir acted like nothing happened, but he felt very guilty inside. So Amir decides that it was either him or Hassan that needs to go. So Amir hides money and a watch under Hassan's pillow to frame him for stealing, so Baba will kick them out. So Hassan admits that he stole it even though he didn't, and Hassan and Ali left, and Baba gets real upset about it. Fast forward, USSR invades Afghanistan on March 1981. Baba and Amir are in a truck and they flee from Afghanistan as it's becoming a war zone. They immigrated to Fremont, California, and now Baba works at a gas station and Amir graduates high school and goes to college. They meet General Tahiri and Soyera, the daughter. Baba gets lung cancer. Amir asks for General Tahiri's blessing to marry his daughter, and he agrees. They get married quickly since Baba was in a bad condition. Baba dies a month after their wedding. Years later, a family friend, Rahim Khan, calls Amir and tells him he is sick and he wants him to visit him in Pakistan. Rahim tells Amir the situation in Afghanistan and how bad it has gotten when the Soviets were pushed out and then the Taliban came in control and ruled using violence and intimidation. Rahim decides to tell Amir about Hassan and ask him for a favor to go to Kabul to find Sohrab, which is Hassan's son, and bring him back to Pakistan where a couple would take care of him. Rahim told them that when they left for the USA, he invited Hassan and his wife to take care of the home, and they had a child named Sohrab. One day, Rahim left for a medical procedure, but he got a call that Hassan and his wife were executed on the street, and Sohrab got sent to an orphanage. And Rahim told that Baba was actually Hassan's real father. Nani? So then Amir finds the orphanage, but Sohrab was taken by the Taliban, and the director told him that he could find the person who took him at the soccer stadium. He goes to the soccer stadium, and at halftime, he witnessed a man and a woman were stoned to death for adultery. He meets the Taliban official that took Sohrab, and apparently it was Asif, and they fight, but Amir was basically a punching bag and he was getting beaten really badly. So then Sohrab got a slingshot and shoots Asif in the eye. Sohrab then helps Amir, and they went to a hospital, and he found out that there was never a couple that would take care of Sohrab. So basically, he got bamboozled by Rahim. So Amir tries to adopt Sohrab, but the US Embassy was like, no. And Amir tells Sohrab that he may get sent back to the orphanage temporarily, but then he tries to end his own life, probably due to the trauma from the orphanage. Then suddenly, Soria and Amir find a way to bring him back. Woohoo! Okay, then Sohrab just remained silent after that, and he went to the USA. So they're back at the US now, and then at a park, they see kites fly, and Amir buys Sohrab a kite, and they fight the other kite. Sohrab smiles, then Amir runs for the fallen kite, becoming a kite runner just like Hassan did for him. One of the most noticeable themes is guilt, such as Amir not helping Hassan, and him feeling very bad about it. Okay, you guys may be wondering, why did Amir not help Hassan? So I think Amir did not help Hassan because it is possible he was overwhelmed and his flight or fight response kicked in. He did the selfish thing and ran away. Maybe this was the most rational decision since he was outnumbered and he was just a kid, but it was the wrong decision because that decision haunted him throughout his whole life until he saved Sorhab. And then redemption. Amir's whole character is basically shaped by this one event of him not helping Hassan when he needed him the most. And by saving Sorhab, Amir was able to find redemption because symbolically he saved Hassan and their friendship. Sorhab is basically a parallel to Hassan since they were both sexually abused by the same guy, and Hassan said he would shoot Asif in the eye with a slingshot when he was a kid, and Sorhab shot Asif in the eye. So more on Amir's character development. At the beginning of the book, he was a selfish child, but due to his haunting past decisions and influences from people in his life, such as Baba and his wife Soraya, who had a bad past too, he becomes a selfless adult throughout the book and goes out of his way to save Sorhab and take him back to the USA, where Amir will become a father figure to him. So Amir's basically taken on the roles of Baba and Hassan. Just like his father, when he betrayed his best friend Ali, he built orphanages and fed the poor and stood up for others as like a way of redeeming himself. Another theme is betrayal. Among Us! So basically Amir betrayed Hassan like Baba betrayed Ali. So just to add on, Baba betrayed his childhood best friend, who was Ali, Hassan's father, by sleeping with Ali's wife, who left and joined a singing group or something. The reason why Baba kept it a secret was so Ali can maintain his honor. And the last thing is dominance and power. So there's a theme of who's the butcher and who is the lamb throughout the book. So in a way, the lamb represents innocence, and the butcher represents the person who is exploiting that innocence, like Asif raping Hassan, or how the Hazaras are treated. So a connection I made is the poem I Hear America Sing, and I Too Sing America. The connection I made was the class divide and racism against the Hazaras. And the Hazaras, if you don't know, are an ethnic minority group who are mostly Shia Muslims. The example of the racism in the book that the Hazaras faced is that they mostly took on the servant role, and they were insulted and killed, like when Ali and Hassan were servants for Amir and Baba. Then how Hassan and his wife were executed on the street by soldiers who got away with it. In the poem I Hear America Sing is in the perspective of the dominant ethnic group and sex, and it talks about how life was great in America, but ignores the racism and economic inequality inflicted upon the minority groups. And also the poem I Too Sing America, it talks about how the darker brother was sent to the kitchen, meaning they were servants and couldn't be with the others, just like how Hassan and Ali lived in a separate hut on the property. Okay, now here's my inquiry question. How does Islam inflict war onto society when it emphasizes peace and tolerance? I mentioned how Hazaras were Shia Muslims, and in Islam there is two subgroups, which are the Sunni and Shia Muslims. And the reason that they conflict with each other is that after Muhammad's death, Muslims believed that Abu Bakr was the rightful successor and how succession should be given to who was trusted the most, whereas the Shia believed that Ali was the rightful successor because he was Muhammad's son-in-law, and how succession should be a hereditary thing. Other than that, they share many of the same core values of Islam. Another real-world connection I made was the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, and the cause of this war was the Cold War, where the USA and the USSR, the two global superpowers, were fighting for spheres of influence around the world. The USSR supported the Afghan communist government in their fight with the anti-communist government. But after years of fighting, the USSR signed an accord with the United States, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, and agreed to withdraw its troops. But after some years of the end of the war, the Taliban took power. The Taliban were mentioned in the book, but who are the Taliban and what was their relation to Islam? The Taliban are Sunni Muslims, and they are also known as Islamic fundamentalists, meaning they enforced a strict interpretation of Sharia, which is Islamic law. Many of their members are usually Pashtuns, and they are usually educated in traditional Islamic schools. In a way, they romanticize the past, which is like the glory days for them, where they had control over a lot of territory and won lots of battles. And back then, it was kind of more of like a warrior culture, and this may appeal to many young males. However, today the majority of Muslims support Islamic modernism, which is basically a response to Western society, like adopting modern values such as democracy, equal rights, and progression. However, after the 9/11 attacks, there have been a growth of Islamophobia, and the media scares some people into thinking that an ordinary high school student who is Muslim is a terrorist for making a clock in class. For example, some media companies would word their headlines or articles in a certain way to push their narrative, like this quote from Fox News. The keyword is Islamic attacks. And to someone who may not know much about Islam or have a lot of empathy, they might just associate the whole religion and those who follow it as terrorists, which is just very ignorant. I think maybe a possible solution is that schools should educate students about the major religions around the world and the extremist beliefs that some groups or people have and how it impacts society and the world around them. How majority of people don't support the use of violence to accomplish something because most of the time violence accomplishes nothing or causes more problems. I think if people are educated more about their religions, they can make better decisions and have better reasoning when it comes to reading media articles or watching the news. Oh wait, but also one more thing.